Okay, will they live now?
This is live on Facebook, right?
Yep, on YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going to take a minute to share this. Okay. Ready when you are? Oh yeah, I need to
Yeah.
turn down the volume. Uh,
You good?
Sorry. Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this midweek edition of the Idle Park Talk Show. We are happy to have you here. We've been on a hiatus for a few weeks. We are back again, ready to roll. So it is our pleasure to welcome you back, and we will continue from where we left on. On our mind today is the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a political activist in the United States of America, to making waves. He died last week, 1 week today. Has sent shockwaves around the world. So we're here to discuss his his life, his rise to prominence, his legacy, the controversies that have arose from his death, and what is the path forward. If it's, this is something that interests you, please let me know. Let us know. We can bring you online, or you can leave a comment, and I'll be happy to share that. Okay. Without much ado, let's dive in. Um, I guess being in the media space, we've all seen Charlie Kirk, we've heard of him, we've used some of his arguments. I personally have learned a lot of him, a lot from him. I'm not sure what your perspective of Charlie Kirk is, if you want to share.
Yeah, I think he's a very, very controversial figure. Well loved and also well hated by people all around the world. The thing about social media is that you're not only limited to the area where you live. Whatever you say or you do kind of translates and gets transmitted to different parts of the world, which is definitely a
Mhm.
good thing. I see a lot of positives there. So he, like I said, was a very controversial figure. You can either love him for his ideas or you can hate him a really lot. When it comes to young adults, I don't know if I would consider myself a young adult, but these are some of the people he spoke to, particularly, right? Because he had, you know, serious conversations going around university campuses, which is where
Mhm.
I think the future of this world is built in university campuses. This is where conversations need to happen. And from what I know growing up, I know university campuses were the place where people were free to have conversations, any kind of conversations that you could imagine. I think the university campus was a place where that was kind of permitted to strive, right? And I think to thrive. And I think he kind of realized this very unique audience. These are people who would not typically go watching CNN or go watching mainstream media, right? These are people who live their lives online. And I think he found a niche, a group of people who where most of them were very interested in having conversations, no matter how controversial the topic was. He had a large group of students coming out to have that conversation. So to me, that was kind of inspiring. I don't know that many people were doing that, have been doing that in the past couple of years. Probably beginning to do something like that now.
Yeah.
But he was probably one of the first people to say, okay, I would go to university campuses, I would talk to the students who would eventually get to lead our future, right? And we would
Mhm.
talk about whatever topic that we want to talk about, and I will be
Yeah.
open to engage with anyone who is willing to engage with me. And I think that is what he did through his Turning Point USA, as well as um, his visits to universities and having conversations. So yes, well loved
Mhm.
and clearly well hated by a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, which seems to be the position that most prominent people hold today. You can't be loved by everybody.
Right.
But you said it very well. University is supposed to be the marketplace of ideas, and that was his niche. He went there to an otherwise very politically liberal
Mm,
situation because most
mhm,
universities are highly liberal, they're very progressive in their thinking. That's where you hear all the trans ideology, that's where you hear all the feminism and stuff like that. So he was instrumental in convincing a lot of the youth to vote for Donald Trump, but in his first
mhm,
term and his second term, like showing them that conservative values are things that are good for you, they are biblically based, they are good for the economy. He was an advocate of capitalism. So, going against 19, 20, 21-year old, people who haven't had much experience in the world, your mindset is not exactly capitalism
mhm.
because you haven't started earning, you haven't started paying tax. So a lot of these people became drawn. I think partly because he was very courteous, he was very respectful, he wasn't
Right.
out there bashing people. He even if you disagreed with him, he came out. I felt like if you disagreed with him, you still come out knowing that he respected your opinion and he respected
Mhm.
you as a person. So for that, I think it was a big loss, particularly in conservative American and in the world at large. You can see even
Mhm.
people in the UK mourning him. So a huge loss, I would say, for the US, a huge loss for the conservative movement. He personally he was a hero of mine. He had a lot of ideas that I liked. A lot of thought processes that I would identify with.
Mhm.
It was shocking to me on a personal level, and
Right.
it was difficult to deal with. But that's life. Some people don't like you for what you stand for, and some
Mhm.
people are willing to take it to the extreme to
Yeah.
literally
I think
say,
I think it's fair to say that if you were young and conservative, Charlie Kirk was one of the few
many
people
cool.
you listen to,
Yeah,
right?
right.
In terms of his very conservative ideas, ideas around abortion,
Yeah,
ideas around the DEI,
marriage.
ideas around around marriage, family,
Hmm.
LGBTQ. If you
Yeah,
were conservative and interested in politics, he was one
right.
of the few people you would go to. Of course, there are a good number of them. Tucker Carlson is one too who
Hmm.
became very popular in the past couple of years. We have
Right.
uh, Candice too
Candice Owens.
is
Yeah.
also someone. Candice Owens is
Hmm.
also someone that people would go to.
Right.
And again, I don't know if this is coincidence, but this group of people seem to have a really they work together really well. If you know watch or listen to their podcast, they would invite each other and have debates,
Yeah. Right.
and
Yeah.
again, not
Yeah.
always agreeing. And I think that's something that we should stress. They might have the same views on certain things, but there's not always agreement. There are
Right.
many different areas where it's just like we do, right? We do have
Hmm.
agreements, but we do have disagreements when it comes to
Absolutely. Yeah.
certain areas. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Like if you were
Hmm.
conservative young and you didn't know
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk was, then I'm not sure who you were
Yeah, I'm
listening
not
to.
sure you're coming. Which speaks to what Harry was, because again, not to stress, most people are coming from family backgrounds. Your parents have taught you to be financially conservative, to go to church, to live a decent life, find somebody to marry. I mean, if your parents are of that type of upbringing, they obviously want you to go in that direction. But we all know what
Mhm,
university is like. People come
mhm,
out from high school living with their parents, they're conservative, and they go to university, and that's when they start learning of all this gender ideology. That's when they start learning that there's more than two genders. They start learning of feminism and all that stuff. So he was trying to break that trend at a very critical point, which was the higher education, which was a place for indoctrination. If you ask me, in my opinion, because
mhm,
children will come in, they're well dressed. All of a sudden, they start painting their hair red. They start um, be pro-abortion. They start not going to church. They start feeling like they can sleep around with as many people as possible. Charlie Kirk stood against that. He was like, find somebody to marry, go to church, believe in God. Your faith is very important. He's famous saying, have more children that you can afford. I don't know if I sign up on that, but yeah, those are things that love your country.
Hmm.
He was very important on patriotism. You should love your
Yeah.
country because, particularly of the US, it's done a lot. It's the greatest country on earth. So he was urging, by the way, for of which many American kids, if you hear them talk, it's like they hate the country that they come from. So
Mm.
he was one of telling people to love your country. Capitalism is the way to go. Um, 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 so it was just his idea, and the age group that he targeted was just antithetical to what you expect. Okay, from all the pressure of the higher education and stuff like that. Yeah.
I have a few seconds of one of his videos.
Hmm.
Again, I just kind of wanted to put it out so we, for those
Hmm.
who don't know him or who are getting to know him, they kind of hear the kind of conversations that he was having
He
with
was
the
having,
students,
yeah,
right? And how cautious, that's the word, right?
right.
He was when engaging, probably being aware that these are, university students
Hostile,
who
yeah,
haven't had a lot of experience in life and who
right.
are still shaping their ideas about our society and things of the world, right? So there's a
Hmm.
conversation about abortion. Again, just see how he conducts. It's just a
Hmm.
few seconds long.
A child into this world and provide that child the life it deserves, would you want them to still bring that child into this
Without a
world?
doubt, every life has a moral obligation to be able to live.
If I can't give that child the life it deserves, why am I bringing it to?
Got it. No, this will be my last question. I want you to think about it. If a single mom has two-year olds, twins, and she wakes up one day and says, "I can't do it anymore. I can't give them the life they deserve."
But that's just not the circumstance.
Hold on. Should she be able to take out a shotgun and kill both those kids?
No.
Of course not, because you think that would be objectionable. That's why I think it's objectionable to eliminate two babies that are 6 weeks old, because they're morally the same thing. One just happens to be bigger. One just happens to be older. One just happens to be outside of the womb. They're both human beings. And you have something in you that says, no way is it okay to kill a 2-year-old. That's called your soul talking.
So these are some of the conversations that he was having. And
Right.
this is, you see how the mannerism, he wasn't yelling, he wasn't shouting, he
Yeah.
listened and then he responded and he gave the students the
Hmm.
opportunity to have that conversation. So if you go to most of his, campus debates, this is exactly how they turn out to be, right? And again, just that was just a little cut. There's thousands of students
Thousands of
either
them. Yeah.
watching or wanting to participate. That tells
Right.
you the reach, right? It tells you how far or how meaningful or impactful he is to these university students, right? I just
Yeah.
kind of wanted to
Yeah.
put that out there so people who don't
Yeah.
know him can
Hmm.
get a little
A
sample
little so. Yeah.
of what he was like, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just classic Charlie Kirk, respectful, courteous, but would disagree with you, and we would tell you why he disagree with you, and we, in a very logical and simple way, explain why abortion is wrong, like the things that we just saw, or in a very logical and simple way, tell you why um, sleeping with 1,000 people before you get married is wrong, or socialism is not the way to go, or government solving all your problem is not the way to go. We've tried it before, it hasn't worked. So he was very influential in that way. He created the organization we didn't mention earlier, Turning Point USA,
Mhm.
that had millions of chapters around the country. And he was really one of those at the forefront of de-indoctrinating kids, he was there trying to make these kids see a reason why it's important to love your country, why it's important to be a patriot, why it's important to have two parents stay at home and raise children, why it's important to go to church and believe in God and have an objective truth that you want your life to abide by. So, again, it was a very difficult time for me because I'm thinking this is someone who's very respectful. This is someone who's really courteous, but he takes a bullet uh, because someone thinks he is very hateful. Someone thinks he is supremacist or he's very judgmental. Yeah, it was sad because we all know people that are on my side of let's say conservative thinking that are more brash, that are more rough, that don't care to listen to you or whatever, and for right reasons. They've probably been burned so many times in the past, so they are not as courteous as Charlie. Just to see someone think that Charlie Kirk is hateful and a bigot, it was very disappointing.
And again, for me, I don't really care what you think about his ideas, right? At the end of the
Right.
day, we should be able to
To
people should be
disagree.
able to express their views on whatever
Right.
topic that comes up
Mhm.
without worrying that they might, like you said, get a bullet for having a certain idea, or for
Mhm.
thinking in a certain way, or for promoting a certain agenda, right? You should
Right.
be free to do that without worrying about being assassinated. And I think that is where the problem is. Yes, you could call him a racist if you want, fine. You could call
Yeah.
him whatever name you want to call him, but
Yeah.
I believe that it should end at that. We
Yeah.
can have a conversation, we can disagree, and if I go to the extreme, I might call you a racist or call you whatever name that I wish to call you, and that should be it. That should be
Yeah.
the most that anyone could do. And
Right.
I think if that is a healthy place to end.
Mhm.
We could disagree, call you names. I
Right.
go and
Call
you go.
names.
I don't
Yeah.
have to come back to you to have a conversation. And to me, that is where the problem is. It's not
Mhm.
like he gets everybody in a hall, locks the door, and says, "Sit down and listen." It's an
Yeah.
open air
It's
and
an
free.
open.
You can come
Yeah.
in, you can listen. If you feel offended, you can walk away. Nobody
Right.
is stopping you from leaving. So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
forced to hear. It's not forced speech where you are forced you down and tell you what it is I think about these ideas. No.
Right.
If you're
Yeah.
interested, come sit. We can have a conversation. If you're just
Mhm.
wanting to listen, listen. If you feel offended, please walk away.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah. And many people did disagree with him, and they walked away, and they didn't think violence was a viable option. But apparently, if you just need one or two people to think that
Mhm,
violence is the only option and carry out such an action
mhm.
to leave a devastating stain on such a movement.
Right.
It was really sad. And mind you, he's having these conversations on campus
Mhm.
where you have professors, intellectuals who cannot pull the crowd that he's able
That
to
he's
pull.
pulling. Right.
He's pulling crowds from people from various fields, people in the sciences, people in medicine, people in sociology, humanity, whatever. You can there's no hall on university campus that can fit the amount of crowd that he pulls. So
That's why he
I
does it
understand
outside.
that's why he does it outside, so that everybody can come, and I'm sure there's usually a long line, and the most agitated people are the ones who ask questions. But then
Mhm,
it's because of the crowd that he's pulling, and how respectful he is, and how courteous he remains, how calm he remains, even when people
mhm,
disagree and are violent towards him. He
mhm,
has the great ability to be able to stay calm under pressure and answer. I mean, there are many videos where people have called him names,
mhm,
racist, bigot,
mhm,
whatever. But you can
mhm.
hear him still not returning the favor, defending his points, and speaking with such clarity. And one thing that's of interest to me, just watch the end of all his interaction, especially interaction that started contentiously. At the
Mhm.
end, people seem to calm down. They seem to bring their wall down, and you may still go home disagreeing with him, but at least he went out with the idea that he respected you as a person.
Mhm.
He thought that you could be better. He thought that something great could come out of whatever situation that you're dealing with at the moment. So for me, a huge disappointment, a huge sadness in my heart. He was a personal hero of mine, so I'm really saddened by the loss. And I'm
Mhm.
sure we're going to talk about this again, to be able to see people celebrate and rejoice in his death and try to misconstrue what he said, try to add or subtract stuff, try to take it out of context. It's really been frustrating for me in the last week. But
Again, I understand. I understand it could be frustrating. Again, I'll play another clip, but before I do that,
yeah,
um, of course, I mean, I'm not saying that I would dance over someone's grave. I'm not saying
right,
that, but I'm saying
yeah,
that I should be, if that's something that I want to do, I should be allowed to do it. So if I want
yeah,
to be happy that somebody
yeah,
died, I should be allowed to do that
yeah, yeah,
without repercussions. Again, that is part of that freedom that we are
yeah,
talking about. You're free to say what you want. You're free to express yourself however you wish, right?
yeah.
I too should be free to do. Again, that is the freedom, because I hear people again. I hear politicians saying, and again, there's a website where if you said anything that was contrary to or
Mhm.
against, it comes across as if you're happy that he was
Yeah,
assassinated,
yeah,
and then they put your
yeah,
name on the website. it's kind of,
Yeah.
it's two wrongs don't make a right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Two wrongs don't make a right. I should be I should be allowed to jubilate. When Osama bin Laden was killed, people jubilated. Don't you think that there were people who were upset and angry about his death? Yes. Right. So I want us to, when we think about, when we think about freedom, it's not one-sided.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
Absolutely.
to be one-sided.
Yeah.
I should be able to rejoice if someone dies if I want to. I'm not saying that as something that I would do, but if someone wanted to come online and tell and talk about all the terrible things that Charlie Kirk did, that person should be able to do that without, facing any kind of repercussion.
Right.
That
Yeah.
person should be able to do that. People, because you go online and people are saying, "Oh, you can't be happy that someone." If I want to be happy about someone's death, I should be happy, right? Again, it's part of that freedom. But before I kind of a digression, we were talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, which is what conservatives has fought for a long time: freedom of speech. You be able to say what you want when you want. But also, freedom of speech doesn't necessarily mean freedom of consequences. I hate to say it, as someone who's conservative leaning myself, that people are not allowed to express their mind. A lot of people are happy that he died. That's a freedom. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, he paid the price for his own life, and I'm sure he will support people saying what they want to say. But then again, institutions and whatever are bound by their own ethos and policies that they have to attach to. Some people have lost their jobs. It's not something that I'll celebrate, but again, freedom of speech also has some consequences. And freedom is not an absolute. You don't have the freedom to just drive your car and run into someone's house. Okay, or you don't have the freedom to just run a red light and kill someone. Freedom is tied to to good, to justice, to courage, to virtue. Okay, we can't just use freedom. You don't have the freedom to.
I think are we not conflating something? You're talking about
What?
the freedom to hurt. Me
Yeah.
rejoicing about somebody's death hurts nobody
It's not
to
hurt.
that extent. Nobody's going to die because I was
I mean,
happy that
some people feel
is
hurt.
dead. It's not different from cancel culture. Me and you have been
I
talking
know.
about cancel culture and being against cancel culture. But cancel culture is as a result of somebody's freedom of expression. Somebody express themselves, put out ideas that a group of people don't like. They cancel them.
Yeah.
That is a consequence of your ability to express. So if you turn around and say now that I should have consequences because I express a certain desire over somebody's death, not that I went and I instigated somebody's death. No, the person is already dead. I am sitting here saying this guy was a controversial figure, and I don't mind that he's dead. Why should there be consequences for me thinking that not necessarily justifying, but just saying I don't care about him well enough to bother about him being dead? Why should there be consequences? Because again, like I said, it's a two-edged sword. It cuts to the right and it also cuts to the left.
It cuts to the left, yeah.
Because when we talk about, or when we are talking about the cancel culture and condemning it and fighting against it, only to turn around now and try to speech or try to limit speech. We are not, the right is not very different from the left if they choose to, to follow this path, right? So again, it's because it happened to us. Now we want it to go a different way. If it happened to someone else, we're fine. It's somebody.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of people posting websites and people posting other people. Yeah,
but there is a website.
There is a website, and I hope they take it down.
Put the names and information of someone who rejoiced or said something negative.
Yeah, but what do you say? I'd like to hear what you say about institutions that say, okay, you celebrated someone that whose ideology, maybe we care for, maybe we don't, but you did celebrate this day, and we don't want to employ you anymore.
They have they have a right to do. I'm not. If I was already employed, and I got fired, then there will be recourse, right? But I'm not employed. I'm not your employee. You have a
Yeah.
right to employ me or not, right?
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
another form of consequence, but again, it's not direct.
It's not
It's
there. Yeah.
indirect
Okay.
consequence of my action, but I would accept that.
Yeah.
But if I got
Okay.
fired from from a company or from an agency because I will rejoice over somebody's demise, then
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to. There's definitely going to be recourse for that.
Yeah. A lot of people have lost their jobs too.
A
And
lot,
again,
yes.
like you've articulated, it's like the right to speak with both sides of his mouth. Either you want freedom of speech or you don't. So, um, but again, institutions can also say that we also have the freedom to fire you depending on what we value. So it's a tricky road. But I totally get your point where it seems like people are speaking with both sides of the mouth.
Yeah. Um. I we talked a little. We're going to come back on the freedom piece because I have a clip that I want to play. But before we get to the part of freedom of speech and where we are at in the United States, I want us to listen to Barack Obama,
Mhm.
who had something to say with respect to Kirk's assassination and with respect to um, political violence and where how
Yeah.
far and what how we've come to where we are now. I think it's an interesting um, 2 minutes, a minute and a half.
Reflection point, not just around political violence, but there are a host of larger trends that we have to be concerned about. I think it is important for us at the outset to acknowledge that political violence is not new. It has happened at certain periods in our history. But it is something that it is anathema to what it means to be a democratic country. And regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, what happened to Charlie Kirk was horrific and a tragedy. The central premise of our democratic system is that we have to be able to disagree and have sometimes really contentious debates without resort to violence.
Political violence, Ghana. This
Yeah.
you?
No, yeah, then, but it strikes more in the U.S. because they hold themselves as um, the epitome of democracy in the world,
Yeah.
where people can disagree and still respect each other. But apparently, that's not what happened with Charlie. People disagreed with him and took it to the extreme and ended his life. And I just say, as someone who kind of like aligns himself with Charlie and his thinking and whatever, people on that side feel like they have been the political victims of political violence for the longest time. You just remember last year they tried to kill Trump, they tried to kill him twice again.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems I mean, they have a sense of they are the ones who's been targeted, and the progressives can say whatever they want and go scot free, but you don't have the conservatives coming to them to sort of with political violence, sort of trying to kill them for that. So it's in people on my kind of side, they feel unfairly treated, they feel targeted, they feel like they cannot express their opinion without the fear of being unalived by someone who's angry at them and stuff like that. So I totally agree with Obama there, but then it depends on how you look at it. Who are those who have contributed to this? Because it's almost like this thing doesn't come out of space. Okay, you've been calling people Nazis, you've been calling them fascists, you've been calling them racist, you've been calling them all the bad names, and then like someone is going to act on that crazy. Okay, and how do we control that? I don't know, because it's not like it's only one-sided too. There are people on the right that
Mhm,
call people names too about people on the
mhm,
left.
mhm.
How do we control crazy people from taking arms and unaliving someone else? I don't know what the answer is to that. Is it the price you pay for political freedom, for freedom of speech, freedom of thought? Maybe, maybe. But it is what it is. It's sad. I don't understand people who do it. I hope we're modeling a situation where people can politically disagree and respect each other. But yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do agree. But for the United States, political violence has always been, seems to
Yeah,
always be around, seem to always be
for a
around.
long time.
The JFK's assassination, the assassination of, black
Malcolm
leaders who
X.
had
Yeah,
Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. You know, it always
there's
been.
always been
I mean,
there.
the
Yeah,
January 6th insurrection or uprising, it's part of that. It's part of that violence. People died. Well,
yeah.
one person died or
One person
something.
died. Yeah,
One person. So it's, but again, it is part of that struggle. It's not only struggle. It's not only struggle of ideas. It gets to a point where it becomes a kind of physical struggle, right? In
hmm,
terms of space and things. So
yeah,
it's always been part of the United States. They might call
yeah.
themselves beacon of democracy. They might say they are the whatever. But again, these democracies that they talk about, so it's kind of, it's tainted with a lot of violence. That
There's a
that
lot of
is
violence.
reality.
Yeah,
It is
right.
tainted with a lot of violence. But again, I feel like a lot of this is to be blamed on the politicians on both sides. I'm not saying it's just democratic or republican on both sides, because they are on each other's neck at all
Right,
times.
right.
The only few things they agree on is military spending and Israel. That seemed to be
Mm.
the only two things, and maybe Russia Ukraine war. That seemed to be the only two things they agree on. Everything
Right.
else is a fight.
Yeah.
Listen to these politicians talk about their call them opponents.
Right.
It's vile. It's
Yeah.
vile. The name calling doesn't start with the grassroots. It's something that it's top to bottom. Because most of the time,
Mm.
the common man on the street hears these words from the politicians, from members of Congress, House. They hear all these derogatory racist. It comes from them.
Right.
So it's hard to blame. It's hard to blame the common man on the street. It's hard to blame. Again, I'm not condoning his actions. But again, I think this Tyler Robinson guy has been indoctrinated and intoxicated with the infighting that's happening at the top. Now you're calling Charlie, you're calling him a racist, you're calling him this, you're calling him that, you're giving him all kinds of names. Anti-Semite. Recently, he became an anti-Semite. They started,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you paint someone as a devil, and then you expect that nothing is going to happen. It's the same thing with Trump. They painted Trump as the man who was going to ruin the United States. He was the devil incarnate.
Mhm.
So what happened?
Someone
People
died.
wanted to try to kill him to
Yeah.
save the country. So there's a lot of this
Yeah. And
violence.
then
Even Obama is sitting there talking as
you see
making
in
behaving
this.
like he's a saint. He's not a saint.
Obama called Trump a Nazi. He called
He's
them a
not a
fascist.
saint.
Yeah. And
He is part of
yeah.
of the
That's why
bundle.
I don't know how. Yeah. I guess I don't know how to solve this, because it's not like the two sides are united, and or they're gonna be united anytime soon. The political divide and the gap keeps increasing,
It's
and everybody
expanding,
keeps
man.
going
The
to the
gap keeps expanding.
keeps getting wider and wider, and this thing. So part of it is from the politicians down with the words that they use, and even people have broken up with their families because people are on a different political
So
persuasion.
divided,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But it did the violence, particularly those on the violence. it's also it's breathing on other things. It's breathing on the family breakdown. It's breathing on drugs. It's breathing
Mhm.
on online radicalization.
Right.
It's breathing on the lack of a moral compass in people's lives. Many
Right.
people are not going to church. They don't
Mhm.
see value in religion. They don't
Mhm.
see the value in an open academic debate, respecting one another person's opinion, trying to debate their idea, but um, 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 not being insultive to the person's to someone's personality. So yeah, it's a top bottom thing, but there's a lot on the bottom that is feeding them, that is fueling this rage. You know, there's lying to somebody about their gender. It's something that is fueling. Because if you tell somebody that there's only two genders, and then suddenly they go to university and someone telling that there are 72 genders, or a trans woman is a woman, and then it's like when you come and say no, there are only two genders, you're the one who's an extremist. You're not the normal person. Okay, so yeah, we can say these things sometimes, and a lot of it is from the top too. But I cannot discard the breakdown of the family, the lack of parental control, the lack of strong faith life, the
Mhm.
lack of community support and stuff. All those things. It's just an environment for this kind of hatred to fester. And then combine that with the availability of guns, which is more than the number of people in the United States. You know,
Right.
is it any
I hear you talk
surprise?
about guns. Are you someone who believes in the gun rights? Are you, because again, if you talk,
Yeah.
even the question he was trying to answer when he
Mhm.
got shot was something
Right.
about guns. They were having a conversation
Right.
about guns, right? And I mean, from what I've heard him say, he's a very strong advocate
Gun
of gun
advocate.
rights.
Yeah.
He
Right.
believes that people should have as many people have a right to own arms or to
Hmm.
bear arms and have as many as they want. And I think that debate again, it got cut short. But I think whoever the was it the lady or the gentleman who was putting that question was probably going to end with, you know, maybe we should do a little bit of gun control so we know who
Right.
has what kind of guns, or a civilian should not have an automatic, you know, where
Yeah.
they could show up in a crowd and before you know it, 50, 70, 100 people are dead, right? But again, he was about to have a conversation about guns,
And
and
he was
then he was
taken
assassinated,
out by a gun. Yeah, by a gun.
taken out by a gun. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Canadians appreciate uh, Americans' love for guns. And it's like we have to know that this is enshrined in their constitutions, and a
Yes.
lot of people have lost their lives because of that. Okay,
Mhm.
but the idea of even taking away guns from America is unthinkable. Okay,
Mhm.
it's like trampling on someone's right. And
Right.
if you're living out of the United States and you're in Canada, and it's just something that you do not
We
think
don't
about.
under. Yeah, I can assure you that we don't understand.
Yeah, yeah, like Canadians
Why?
do not appreciate
Yeah.
the Second Amendment rights, okay, which is the right to be able to own arms and to defend yourself. Um, um, Conservative Canadians sort of get it, but it's not part of the Canadian Constitution. So
No.
it's not, the conversation doesn't even go that far. But in the US, it's a huge thing that people would rather die than to have their guns taken by the government or to have a certain level of gun control. Okay. Have people lost their lives because of that? Absolutely. There have been tons of deaths. It's like, okay, it's like the car accidents. We should ban cars. Okay. That's how Americans think about it. Okay. Or what can I say?
Now, well, we
There
don't have
is
to ban cars, but we can control who drives. Isn't that
well,
why we
but yeah,
get a driver's license, do a test, car every
exactly.
2 3 years to make sure you're still
Hmm.
capable and competent to drive? Isn't
Right.
that, you know, similar
That's
to
right.
to owning a gun? Yeah, come back in 2 years. Let's do a test or do a
There's,
check
there's
or
the,
whatever.
but then
And see whether or
you
not you still, you know, are in
mhm.
a position where you could own a gun. There's a lot of mental health, like you said, mental health
Right,
issues, a lot.
right.
And at the end of the day, even this Tyler guy, at the end of the day, you would you would find some mental health thing come
You
up
are trying to make that to, yeah,
very clearly.
right.
I look at the guy, I'm like, is this guy okay? Just by
Yeah,
looking at him, I'm not saying that there's
yeah,
anything wrong, but
right.
definitely mental health issues.
Yeah,
It might not be anything too significant, but there's usually always a connection with people's
No
mental health.
connection with
People
that.
who go
Yeah.
out and take actions like these usually
Yeah.
always have some
To have
unresolved
all
mental
that.
health issues. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to return my point, I don't think Canada appreciate Americans' love for gun and the history of that in the United States. Um, it's not a conversation that Canadians are apt to have. I mean, it's just a different circumstances. Okay. People love their guns. I mean, you go to Walmart and people have guns. You can see it. You can see it on the boarding. You go to church and you have a police officer with a gun because you know you got crazy people. I don't think Canadians are up there. But it also begs the question: what if a criminal lays hands on a semi-automatic weapon in a Walmart, in a church in Canada? What's going to happen? Because it's gonna be till the bullets run out. Do you want to take your chance with someone by chance having a gun? You know, hopefully that doesn't happen in Canada. But do you imagine a criminal having a gun in Canada? The amount of damage that they can do. Would you rather be somewhere that someone potentially has a gun to defend you guys, or no guns? Okay, because I've been to the church in the United States and you see people who are patrolling the church, and you can clearly see that they are armed. And you're like, oh yeah, this is not what I want to have for Canada. Sure.
Isn't it? Doesn't it tell us about the kind of society that you guys live in? If you live in a society where
It does.
you're not free or comfortable enough to step out of your house without without carrying a side piece for protection, what are you protecting yourself from? And who are you?
No, I don't think that. I don't know if the people are not free. The people are free. People go out and do stuff. People go out to church and do stuff.
If you have a side piece, it tells me you step out of your house worried. That's the only reason you will have a side
Yeah,
piece.
because everyone is constitutionally bound to own a weapon. So some crazy guy can also own a side piece.
And knowing
Okay.
that crazy
Yeah. Yeah, because some crazy people can own a side piece and they might come to actually hurt you. So if you're holding it for self-defense, fine. But they come with crazy people. Again, it's just a conversation that Canadians are not. It's not in our circumstances. We are not up to that. But again, if you think about it, what if a criminal lays hands on a weapon in Canada? Right. What is your defense?
You run and hide. That's your defense. Run and hide.
Hide against a bullet.
Again, I understand.
Yeah.
I am comfortable going about my business without worrying about, because we don't have a history. Canada doesn't have a history of gun violence.
No.
Rarely does it happen. Once in a blue moon, it does. I'm not saying it never happens, but I'm saying it doesn't happen enough that most Canadians would want to protect themselves in that way, right?
No, right.
And that is
it's not even part of your constitution,
It's
so you're
not
not even
even
thinking about it.
Thinking about it. Again, America has had a very violent history. I think that's something that we should, from their revolutions and their fight with the British, and then their fight amongst themselves and all that. Canada's history has not been that violent. People are not as worried about their governments as Americans are worried about their governments. I think if you do a poll and see people's faith in their governments, Canadians have a lot more faith in the ability of their government to protect and have their best interests at heart. I don't think that most Americans feel that their government.
You need to
Because,
read this.
again, the reason I say this is because once we have a democratic president, the conservatives are fearful that they are going to take away our guns. They are going to. So now there's a reason they don't have trust for that government, so they carve their guns. When a Republican president steps in, Democrats are like, we don't trust this government for this and for that and for that reason. So there's no point where Americans have accept, or it is hard for, again, most of it is just party lines. If there's a conservative, if there's a Republican president, fine. Everything the Republicans do are bad for the rest of America. Democrats don't want it. If it's a Democratic president, the Republicans are up in arms, right? There's always been that
it's just the angst.
push and pull. between the two parties. Probably that's why they should need a second one, or probably that's why they need a second one. I don't know. That just wanting us to come back to this aspect of
Charlie.
speech. I was watching Tucker Carlson today. He released an episode, I think it's today, and he had something to say about speech, speech, and then hate speech, and he used Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is U.S. I think there's the Attorney General made a comment, and then Tucker was commenting, making a response or reply to that comment. Let's just listen, and then we could comment. After.
There is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. This is the Attorney General of the United States, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, telling you that there's this other category called hate speech, and of course the implication is that's a crime. There's almost no sentence that Charlie Kirk, and I'm not running the risk of appropriating his memory for my own ends by saying this, it's provable. There's no sentence that Charlie Kirk would have objected to more than that. And you've got to think the Attorney General didn't think it through and was not attempting to desecrate the memory of the person she was purporting to celebrate, that she just threw that out there, that she hadn't thought about it. You hope that. You hope that Charlie Kirk's death won't be used by a group we now call bad actors to create a society that was the opposite of the one he worked to build. You hope that. You hope that a year from now, the turmoil we're seeing in the aftermath of his murder won't be leveraged to bring hate speech laws to this country. And trust me, if it is, if that does happen, there is never a more justified moment for civil disobedience than that, ever. And there never will be. Because if they can tell you what to say, they're telling you what to think. There is nothing they can't do to you because they don't consider you human. They don't believe you have a soul. A human being with a soul, a free man, has a right to say what he believes, not to hurt other people, but to express his views. And by the way, that thinking, and not to pile on the Attorney General, who's a very nice person, but that thinking that she just articulated on camera there is exactly what got us to a place where some huge and horrifying percentage of young people think it's okay to shoot people you disagree with, to kill Nazis for saying things they don't like. Why do they believe that? How did we get here? Is it the video games? Is it the SSRIs? Yeah, probably. But what it really is 12 and then 16 years of indoctrination in our schools at the hands of people who tell them that, who say exactly what the Attorney General just said. Well, there's free speech, which of course we all acknowledge is important, so important. But then there's this thing called hate speech. Hate speech, of course, is any speech that the people in power hate, but they don't define it that way. They define it as speech that hurts people, speech that is tantamount to violence. And we punish violence, don't we? Of course we do.
Your thoughts?
Oh, very well articulated by Tucker Carlson. And like you said, people want to celebrate Charlie's death. It's their freedom to do so. You know, I'm not an advocate of a hate speech law because he clearly said hate is only defined by the person who's in power. You know, because when the Democrats come, they're going to define hate differently. So
differently, yes.
Yeah, so it's very important that we do not use Charlie Kirk's memory to be able to create laws that is going to hamper the conservative movement. Conservatives have been known for the advocates of free speech, say what you want. I mean, there are probably consequences that come along with that. But then you cannot regulate or legislate people's thoughts and opinions. So I really agree with Tucker there. Because when you start saying hate speech, that means you have to define what is hate speech. Who are those who are going to enforce hate speech? What is the punishment for saying hate speech? Okay, and then hate speech is really defined by those who are in power. So yeah, I totally agree with Tucker.
Yeah, just to add to that, like Tucker Carlson said, Charlie Kirk was someone who had criticized Trump's government seriously when they had this crackdown of pro-Palestinian movements in school campuses, and the Trump government was trying to put laws in place, where if you
Yeah.
criticize the state of Israel, you're forced to if you were an immigrant and a United States citizen, they have a right to pull out your citizens. They
Yeah.
have the right to repatriate you, and they repatriated, I believe,
Some people, yeah.
repatriated some people. They forced universities to fire or terminate professors. They suspended students in campuses because they were pro-Palestinian campaigners, right? And this is what something that Charlie he did in April 2025. Charlie Kirk expressed concerns that the Donald Trump administration's crackdown on campuses threatened free speech and were a weaponization of anti-Semitism, saying once anti-Semitism becomes a valid ground to censor, even imprison somebody, there is a frantic effort to label all kinds of speech as anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
The same way the left labeled all kinds of statements as racist to justify silencing their opponents.
Yeah.
That was his view.
That was his
Clearly,
view. Charlie Kirk was clearly an advocate of free speech. I mean, he lived his life talking to people who disagree with him. He didn't want to silence them. He gave them a platform to be able to express their ideas and then try to use logic to say why your idea is wrong and why your idea is not good for the society. I think that's how a well-functioning society to be.
Right.
Because if we start to define laws that are hate speech, and you get into very difficult territory there, and it becomes really muddy. What do you exactly mean by free speech? Can you say what you think? If you're not allowed to say what you think, can you just act on what you're thinking? You repress a lot of thoughts, and then I reckon we're going to see more violence if you have hate speech, okay? Because you have to define hate speech. You have to put a task force to enforce the punishment for someone who goes against hate speech. So yeah, I wouldn't want to go that far either.
Just as it has been difficult to an extent for the liberals to the left to clearly define what racism is.
Right.
So it would be hard for conservatives.
Like racism and white supremacy. Okay, what do you mean by racism?
What do you mean by
what do you mean by white supremacy?
It's hard to define. So
it's
when you go now and you say, oh, this is hate speech. Now you have to, clearly define what it is. Yeah. Right?
And more importantly, what it is not.
And more importantly, what it is not. So I think that is clearly an issue. If me opposing the state of Israel and their killing of children and women in Palestine, if you consider that hate speech or so you blur the lines completely.
You do blur the lines.
Where anything could be considered and defined as hate speech. Hate speech to who? I think that is where the question is, to who? Who is determining what is hate and what isn't?
Right.
There's going to be a speech police where you make it, you people have to sit down and determine, or maybe they put that through the.
Remember, this is how we ended up with all the cancel control and censorship in social media.
Exactly.
A lot of people have forgotten what happened in COVID times. Where you post something and then Facebook or
tells you this is hate speech.
This is it, or this is disinformation,
or this is disinformation, or this is this or
blah blah blah. And clearly the right was against that, and the right was celebrated when Elon Musk bought Twitter, now X, and opened it up so that people can really express what they really thought. We can't come back now and say, okay, we have to create laws because one of ours was shot, and it hurts. It really hurts. But I don't think that it's wise to go that far. Then you're just acting the same as the left.
Especially for conservatives who have been victims of this
myopic,
ambiguous
use of words,
right? And to turn around and hear them. Even Trump, I would play a clip where Trump is talking about, hate. What is hate speech? Trump, if they talk about hate speech, every word that comes out of your mouth could be considered hate speech, right? Could be when you talk about LGBTQ, when you talk about disabled people, you talk about women. So everything Trump talks about could be considered hate speech, and he is the one who's going to support hate speech legislation,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I don't know. Yeah,
That's
I don't know
crazy.
if he said that, but I don't want that. Yeah, yeah. That I don't think if they
You
have to
don't know
think
if he
that's
said
yeah.
it.
No, no. I don't know if he's going to legislate that. If he said that they're going to put a law to legislate people's speech,
They are pushing
because
for it.
he's
I don't know that he will, but you know,
yeah, yeah. I don't think
this
it's
is the
wise, is it?
conversation that conservatives are having.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Ah,
U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi is saying there's
right.
speech and there's hate speech.
Yeah.
I mean, she's trying to she's trying to demonstrate, to say that there's a difference,
Yeah. Yeah. Of
and she's
course,
the
it's
Attorney
very different.
General, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. As a consumer, I don't want them to go that far, yeah, because
Mm,
then it's gonna take us 10 steps back, especially, and it's going to just be a hypocritical position to hold. You can't be for one thing at one time, and then when it doesn't favor you, you be for the next thing at the same time.
mhm.
You can't be moving like that. I
That's
think
true.
Charlie Kirk stood on principle. I think to respect his legacy
Right.
and his life. I think
Mhm,
the conservatives had to stand on principle.
mhm.
Was sad, and we feel hurt that people have this kind of thought that they are not happy that he died, but then you cannot go and again say that that's hate speech and try to punish people for thinking that. I mean, you can leave institutions to decide that for themselves, but you as a government cannot be the one that instigates that.
Before we go to who killed him, because I know that's a conversation that a lot of people
Yeah.
are having out here.
Hmm.
But before we go to that, um, Tucker Carlson had something to say about Benjamin Netanyahu, who did
Yeah.
an interview a couple of days back, and for some reason he tried to I don't know if he was twisting or he was trying to take all this anger and then direct it towards a support for Israel. Tucker Carlson did not find that appealing, and so
Hmm.
had some criticisms for Benjamin Netanyahu. I listened to his interview, which we are not going to show here, and it's like, not really dancing on his grave, but taking advantage of the fact that he's not here to speak for himself, and then to kind of say that he was like pro-Palestinian, pro-Israel, and he was this and he was that. But before his death, a couple of months, he was one of Israel's biggest critics,
Hmm.
criticizing the way they are prosecuting the war. They call it war with Hamas. Also, rebuking them for trying to draw the United States into their wars with
Hmm.
Iran, and now and with Qatar from a couple of days back. So he had a lot of criticisms for them. But the way Netanyahu spoke, you might think that he was a Zionist through and through, right? So Carson had
Hmm.
something to say about that.
Was shocked and sickened by the reaction of the ghoulish and really repulsive reaction of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to Charlie's death. Basically made it all about him and all about his country, immediately trying to take the energy, the sadness, the grief that people felt over Charlie's murder and redirect it towards support for whatever project he's involved in. And by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu is not the same as the nation of Israel at all. Bibi is despised by many people in Israel, and if you know people who live there, you know that that's true. There are huge divisions within the Israeli government. I mean, there are certain parts of the intel world in Israel that do not support some things that Benjamin Netanyahu has done recently. So it's not the same as attacking Israel, attacking Bibi, but I don't think I've ever seen anything lower than his attempt to hijack Charlie's memory and use it for his own political ends, particularly because what he said was completely untrue. Charlie didn't hate Jews. He loved Jews. He had tons of friends who were Jews. He loved the state of Israel. He loved going there. He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times, and he said it to people around him many times. He felt that Bibi Netanyahu was a very destructive force. He was appalled by what was happening in Gaza. He was, above all, resentful that he believed Netanyahu was using the United States to prosecute his wars for the benefit of his country, and that it was shameful and embarrassing and bad for the United States, and he resented it.
He's not very different from someone who says, I'm happy he's dead. Is he?
Oh, Bibi?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't watch the interview. I'm just watching Tucker.
You're just
But
watching Tucker. You haven't listened to what
no, I haven't. I have no idea what the interview was. But again, I don't know the ins and outs. I'm not sure I'm even that's above my pay grade to be even talking about that. But Tucker may be right. I don't know. Charlie Kirk, I know he was a friend of Israel. He loved Israel, and he kind of supported the war. I know he got frustrated with Netanyahu at the end. So maybe. I know a lot of people are making a connection to Charlie's death to Israel.
That is
Not
where I
yet.
was getting to with this one.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not yet there. I haven't seen any convincing evidence to that respect. People can also say, Tucker, you're also using Charlie's name to make a name for yourself. Because even Candace Owens, and I love Candace Owens, already showing Charlie's her text between her and Charlie because she doesn't really like Israel right now. So I don't know. Let the guy rest. Let the family even bury the guy before we start coming up with there is so much haste to be able to break news or to make these connections and whatever. And we forget that this guy has a wife. He has 2 young kids who were there when he was gunned down. So it's really sad that people are rushing to make. And you can say Bibi is doing that. Sure, he is doing that in support of his country. But I wouldn't say that. I would also say that Tucker is doing the same thing. You're also using Charlie's memory to say you're fighting against Bibi. But is this the time to be really having these conversations from all of you? Let people grieve, let the bury the dead, let the dust settle, and then you start having this conversation. In my opinion, all of this, whether you think it's Netanyahu or whether he's using Charlie's memory, or you're trying to defend Charlie memory from Netanyahu, can we just bury the guy and let the family grieve, and then we pick up after his burial? At least, that's just my position.
Who killed?
And I said it.
Who killed
Huh?
Charlie? Okay. Who killed him?
Well, for now we know that.
What killed him?
The
It's
evidence
a who
is
or
there.
what?
Huh?
It's a who or what?
It's both. The guy is clear. From what we have, the evidence shows it's a text message with the guy who was dating a transgender guy. He said he has hated Charlie for long, and he wrote. You saw the text messages of the guy and his partner. Okay, that's what we have as evidence right now. All this one that people are trying to bring Israel in. I haven't seen any clear connection, speculation. These strong speculations, maybe. But I just think, out of respect of Charlie's life, his family, who are still grieving, I think it's very disrespectful to be able to bring up things that are not really found. Even if they are founded, I don't think now is the right time. The guy is barely shot a week ago. He's going to be buried on Sunday. Can we have some respect of his life and his legacy? That's just my position right now. And I say this is all respect for Tucker or respect for Candace Owens. I've always loved them. But I think it's just too much. They too, as much as they blame Bibi for capitalizing on Charlie's death, they are doing the same thing. They are also capitalizing. Tucker can't say he's innocent. He's not capitalizing on Charlie's death. He is. He has been a critic of Netanyahu for a long time. He's also capitalizing on the guy said. So they both are. So that's just my position.
So I've not exactly had the time to follow Tyler Robinson. He was arrested a couple of 30 something hours later. The word on the street is that his father and other family members, kind of
MAGA.
him to
doing MAGA. He called him diehard MAGA. My dad is a diehard MAGA.
Right. So they encouraged him to kind of turn himself in. It was 36 hours plus, and I feel like the FBI had no clue who this guy was.
They had no clue until the parents turned in him. They were still coming through. Until they were still coming through evidence. So it's actually the father, who's the MAGA, who's supposed to be the hateful guy, who turned his son in and refused to take the 100,000 bounty that was on his son's life.
Right.
Okay. So at least there's some level of integrity there.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
um,
So
um, um,
I hear, I mean, from what I read, not what I hear.
mm,
From what I read,
yeah,
I read that
yeah,
he's not necessarily cooperating with
yeah,
the
with the authority.
investigation. He hasn't given a confession.
Yeah,
Um, he really hasn't said much about why and motives and things like that.
mhm,
He
yeah,
had his first day in court. I don't know, was it today or yesterday? Today.
yeah. It was today. Yeah,
It was today. And again, it's just an arraignment, right?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
nothing like that. He wasn't represented anyway, which probably too early. He's probably needing to look for a lawyer and things like that. So
yeah,
that is a case that is just building.
yeah. It's
um
just building. Yeah,
it's just building. But my question is, again, is and again, a lot of people are asking how a 22-year-old would put all of this in place, evade the police and the FBI for 36
yeah,
hours,
yeah.
threw them off his scent to that extent. There's a lot of questions uh, uh,
Right.
um, about, okay, someone got arrested first, and then they let him go. Someone else got arrested, and then they let them go because they were not the perpetrator. They said when they said he was the only, he was the sole whatever, so he was the only one involved. And then later on they said they were looking for another suspect. So there's been a lot of confusion in terms of what exactly is
Right.
going on. And I would
Mhm,
see why people might begin to think somebody's hiding something, or
mhm.
something is not very clear. And then this is the conspiracy now, right? Because again, when we start talking about people hiding stuff. But again, it will not be the first time. Until today, we don't know who killed JF Kennedy.
We don't.
They gave us someone, but is it really? Again, there's a lot of conversation going on. I get a
Right.
feeling that this story might be one of those stories where we let it go just because we can't get to the bottom of it.
Well,
And whatever it is,
the,
the government, the government says,
but I think, yeah. But I think, I mean, if you read the text with his partner, I think there is strong evidence suggesting that he's the one who did it. He said, he said, I'm sorry, I'm the one. He said it in the text with his partner. Unless you have to build on some certain level of conspiracy theory. I mean, it's crazy, and I'm not saying that is out of bounds, but the guy really confessed that he's the one who did it. They have the text messages, and to your point, the area doesn't sound as sophisticated as they purported
as
to
yeah,
be.
as
You
we see in
know,
the movies.
it took that as you see in the movie. I mean, with social media and everything now, you used to think that people are so sophisticated, but they really are not. It is when they released the picture, and then the parents saw that that's the guy looking like their son, and the grandpa was looking for his gun, who was missing. You can see in the text message, the guy said, my grandpa will be so pissed because he cannot find his gun. And then they are the one who turned your son in. I think left to the FBI, maybe it's today they have been finding, making the connections. But I think these things take a while. But the image that the FBI has portrayed for to us, at least, it's like they are so sophisticated they can pick out anybody anyhow in the world. But they didn't sound too sophisticated in trying to track down the killer. Um,
Right.
um, Luckily, the parents are reasonable people, people who probably felt the sadness. People who probably loved Charlie too. So
Mhm.
I thought that was decent on their part to turn their son in.
Okay, as we conclude, there's one thing that I'm sure everyone agrees on, and I am going to use Charlie Kirk to end this Charlie Kirk session.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I'll play this.
But we don't know how to create it for the generation that needs it most. If you look at the economic conditions, you would think the other conditions surrounding it are like abject poverty. These are the problems that like third world nations have.
I know.
Our young people can't afford stuff and they have to finance their basic necessities. And yet we're the wealthiest nation in the history of the world on the planet. We have a $37 trillion GDP. We have the greatest companies and we have all this stuff to brag about. And yet all of our problems would beg the question, and it's like this inherent contradiction. We're super wealthy on one side, like a powerhouse juggernaut, and we are like an economic nightmare on the other side. How did that happen?
I'm sure Democrats and Republicans alike would agree to that.
Yeah. It's a wages country and people are struggling. People are still struggling.
Everybody, black, white, Hispanic, blue, green,
everybody is struggling.
Everybody is struggling. The rich,
Yeah.
the 1%, and the rest of us. I think we can all agree that he is very correct when he says what he said in that little clip. Yeah. I just wanted to end with something that was at least that most people would agree to.
Yeah.
Okay. Final comments. We have.
Nothing even what I've said. I mean, it's a huge loss personally for the country. I'm really saddened by his loss, and also saddened by the fact that some people are rejoicing in his loss. But it is what it is. I wouldn't want to take a step forward to be able to put hate laws to be able to start tracking down people. That's life. Even if you're a saint, some people still celebrate your death. So I'm wishing now that his family, his young kids, who grow up to cherish the videos of their dad. He had hundreds of hours of clips, and they can see that their dad was a good man who preached biblical values, who loved God, who encouraged young people to get married, stay married, to raise a family, all things that are considered good. So in that respect, it's an immense loss for me and for people who love Charlie. So I just hope his memory is a blessing to his family and the United States. One thing I'm also grateful for is the lack of violence. Everybody there has been no shops boarding up, preventing for retaliation. There has been no riots and burning of the city. And
Republicans are not good with organizing.
Well, maybe they're just decent people who don't think that.
Just decent people. You're right. Sorry,
maybe they're just decent people. Okay, and then I see people putting comparison with George Floyd and Charlie. Like, come on now, come on. You don't even want to go there. So, anyways, it's really sad. I hope the family can find some consolation in their close ones in their church and whatever, and his legacy will live on. So, yeah, that's just it for me.
Well said, Ghana. Thank you very much again for letting us make this happen. Hopefully we took a little break. Hopefully we can be part of the conversation in our own little way,
right,
and continue to provide information and facilitate conversations like this. Well said. I don't really have anything to add. You kind of said it all.
Oh, thank you. Good night.
Yeah, good night.